Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and I'm joined, as always, by my bewildered co-host Tara.
Greetings, citizens. Who's bewildered? Me?
Yeah, you're bewildered. I somehow convinced you. I roped you into this show, and you sit there. You're like, "How did I end up here? What's happening? How did this weird Scottish man convince me to do this? I don't know, but I'll just go with emotions. It's fine." Talk about
It
movies.
is a bit strange.
It's a bit strange, yes. So this is all a lie, by the way. Tara taught me into it. So, we talk about sci-fi movies on this show. This is a sci-fi movie podcast, and don't shake your head at that. You know it's true. And we are doing Close Encounters of the Third Kind on this episode because it was the winner of our Patreon vote. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, we put up 4 movies in a vote for our $5 and up patrons, and they get to vote and pick which one we do. And we had a theme. It was all sci-fi movies by Steven Spielberg, and Close Encounters was the one that
Couldn't really go wrong with this pick, huh?
well, I've never seen AI, so that'd have been an interesting one.
Oh,
if that
really?
won. But
That's exciting.
and I have some hot takes on Minority Report, so that might have also been interesting. But yes, I mean, all 4 would have been interesting discussions for sure. Like, nothing was going to be a boring talk. So here we are. So we all start spoiler free, as we always do. We'll give you a warning in the middle before we go into spoilers, and we'll get into it. So, Close Encounters. I'm going to give you an anecdote to start this off. Years ago, probably 7-8 years ago, I had some friends over. You know, it wasn't irregular for us to put on a movie. You know, I've got the big collection, and let's watch a movie. So they're looking.
Do you have an abduction story?
No. So we're looking through the collection, and another friend suggests, "Hey, what about Close Encounters of the Third Kind?" And the first friend goes, "Nah, I can't. I've not seen the first 2." I thought you'd enjoy that story.
It's dumb. You have a dumb friend.
Oh, I hope he's not listening to this. So we, so Close Encounters, as the poster points out, for the movie, a first kind, the Close Encounter of the First Kind is seeing a UFO. A Close Encounter of the Second Kind is physical evidence of said UFO, and the third kind is contact. And that kind of gets us into what the movie's really about, and it's obviously, just to give you the spoiler-free premise, UFOs start appearing over certain places in the Midwest, and it drives Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Roy, to become kind of obsessed with kind of learning more and discovering, and it leaves him with this feeling that he has to find something, and he's got this shape in his head. And we also have like these scientists and government hotshots who are kind of tracking things as well, and it all kind of builds up to this big culmination at Devil's Tower. So that is the general gist of it. So, I mean, sometimes Tara surprised me in the past, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to ask the question, Tara, does this hold up for you, and when was the last time you watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Ooh, the last time I watched it was last summer because they did or I guess it was actually not last summer, 2 summers ago.
Yeah, 27. Because I'm assuming you're going to say it's for the
40th anniversary.
For the 40th anniversary, yeah. So it's been 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they showed it in theaters again. And yes, I happen to very much enjoy this movie. I've seen it. The last time I watched it was a couple of years ago, but I've seen it many, many times. What about you?
I don't know when I first saw it. This is one I didn't have taped on VHS like a lot of the other Spielberg movies growing up. So I think I saw parts of it as a kid, but I don't think I saw it properly until DVD, until I was a teenager. And then the last time I saw it was actually probably just over 10 years ago. Maybe even 12 years ago. And it was the Blu-ray I watched, because it was one of the early Blu-rays I had, because when I first started buying Blu-rays in 2008, it was still relatively early in Blu-ray, and a lot of big movies hadn't come out yet. So that was like one of the say, handful that had a big Blu-ray release. It was, oh yeah, I'll get Close Encounters because they got a big remaster, it's got all the cuts, so I'll get that disc.
I think I had the DVD of that, where it had like 3 different cuts in it.
Yeah, I tell you not, I think it's the 30th anniversary Blu-ray. I think
makes sense.
That makes sense actually. Yeah, 2007 sounds about right for when it came out.
Yeah, because that's when I also purchased mine, but I didn't buy the Blu-ray. I bought the DVD because I didn't have a DVD or a Blu-ray player yet.
Yeah, oh, that's fair. But I think I watched it when I got it, and then I've not watched it. This was the first time I'd watched it since then. Um,
Mm.
so, and no, it's a good movie. It's got a lot going for it. I don't think it's Spielberg's best. I think it's not perfect. I have some critiques for it, but
Okay.
it's certainly got some very iconic scenes. It's got some great ideas. You know, the ending especially is kind of well remembered and has all these big kind of cinematic moments that people always, you like. I feel like playing the tune, the do 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 do. I can't even. I'm
Do,
terrible at
do,
remember.
do, do, do. You
Thank
just
you.
watched it.
Do do do. No, I'm bad at just doing little tunes like that.
Can you do the hand motion?
Oh God,
It
no. Oh dear. Anyway, so no, the movie's great. Um,
is. I think it's great. I think it's definitely like Spielberg, maybe not his finest, like you said, but it's still just like that wonder that he's able to do so well. And I love. I'm not going to say. I was about to say something spoilery, but I'm not going to. But it is just it's very much what you expect from classic Spielberg. And it's a really great role for Richard Dreyfuss, who's so likable in the film, even though he does some pretty despicable things when you take a step back and look at it. But
oh, more on that in the spoilers for sure. More on that
yeah.
to come. I think if I'm critiquing the film, I think the pacing's a little bit weird at times, and it's a little bit impersonal to begin with. In
And you
term,
watched the theatrical cut?
I watched the theatrical cut. Yes. Did you also
Okay.
watch the theatrical cut?
Yeah, but the last time I watched it was not. It was in the theater for the 40th
Directors,
anniversary, and they showed the ones with more extended scenes,
but not
more
the.
footage, and I don't like that one as much. It really slows things down.
Yeah, no, it does.
It is a long movie already.
Yeah, it is. It's like 2 hours 14 minutes. It's because the so just to explain the cuts for anyone who doesn't know this. So there's the theatrical cut, and then when it was coming to TV, they wanted to do something special for it, and they asked Spielberg to do an extended version, and they kind of forced them to do a new extended ending, which featured the inside of the spaceship. And it's something that he has kind of always regretted. So the director's cut, which is called, which came out, yeah, probably about 12 years ago, something like that. I think that was around that time. It keeps some of the extra things that he added throughout the film, all the little things that he wanted to put back in, but it doesn't put in the ending, the new ending. It keeps it the
Hmm.
traditional ending. Um, yeah, I picked the theatrical cut because I'm sure the last time I watched it, it was that director's cut. I'm sure that when I got the Blu-ray, that was, oh yeah, I'll watch that one because that's the
Yeah,
one that he
watch the
apparently.
one Spielberg wants me to
Yeah.
watch. Right.
I think there's some. It's just a little bit impersonal. I don't think it flows as well as a lot of his other films. It feels a little bit more jumpy around kind of thing. It doesn't feel like there's because the start of the movie especially doesn't feel like it has this through line. It's not until you really get to know Dreyfuss's character that you start to really, okay, right, I'm getting settled into who the protagonist kind of is and like
Right.
what the movie is and so on.
I think that a lot of Spielberg movies jump around, especially lately. Or if you watch just like historical ones, like Empire of the Sun really does it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Amistad. Um, I think this feels a lot more like it's traditional Spielberg movies, but the ones that I guess are truly like really great Spielberg ones, like Jaws and Jurassic Park, they do have like they're really um, they're cut really concise.
Yes.
It's a pretty easy story to just fall into, and you're only following a couple of people, for the most part. And yeah, this one jumps around, but it still feels like a Spielberg film to me.
Oh no, it does. Like the wonder and the optimism of it like comes out
Hmm.
throughout. You can almost critique that there's not enough either humans try to kill aliens or aliens try to kill humans. But the end of it is like, no, everyone's being nice. What is this? This isn't realistic.
Right. Well, I was going to talk about that too before, but I thought maybe that'd be a spoiler.
I don't. I don't think it's a spoiler just to sort of crack that joke. I feel like with this movie and with some other big classics, it's like okay, the gist of what the movie is kind of just in pop culture at this point. I'm avoiding talking about
Okay.
moments. I'm avoiding talking about certain things, but it yeah, because I think the movie. I think gets much better when you actually stop and think about what it's actually doing and what it's talking about. And I will
Mhm.
say something controversial here. I think it was kind of remade with Arrival, and Arrival's better. But
Arrival is, yeah, well, Arrival's more modern, but I don't think Arrival is a better version of this at all. Because I think Arrival, even when I watched it, I still had that sense of wonder, and I liked that, it's a story of benevolence with aliens. I mean, in a way, I think Contact might be a better version of this, but I still rate this pretty high.
A better version of this. Oh, well, I've only seen Contact once, and I was like 14, so I don't remember it being that. I mean, I remember liking it. I don't remember it being that good though. So I am
I mean, it's
intrigued.
a very similar story when you think about it, but I think Contact has a lot more science in it, which
Hmm.
might mean I like it more. Same with Arrival, but Arrival has Arrival is more about the twist.
I feel like Contact needs to go on the schedule now because that was a really bold statement. Um, I no, I think because for me this movie is about contact. It's about communication. The opening scene of this movie it literally starts with
I,
people.
I mean, yeah, maybe plot wise, but I kind of disagree that that's what the movie's about.
Oh, absolutely is though. The opening scene of the movie, the first thing that happens is that people can't talk to each other because of language barriers. That is the opening scene of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and
Yeah, but I don't think that's about communication. I think that's letting you know that this is not about America, even though it's taking place in America. This is a world event with people from all over the world who are going to be involved.
yeah, it is about communication. I'm going to fight you on this. The whole movie is about communication and how languages don't add up. But the whole thing with the tower is it's alluding to Tower of Babel or Babel. I don't know how you pronounce it. Babel. Do you happen to know?
Um, I think it's Babel
Tower of Babel, which is actually kind of funny
because
because
of the word Babel.
babbling, yes, babbling means talking. No, because the whole thing with Tower of Babel is that gods everyone spoke one
Yeah, they're
language and then
trying to
God
reach
separated
God,
them
and
all,
God said no,
right?
and then destroyed the
So
tower that they built, and then he punished them by making everyone speak different languages.
yeah, so the whole plot of this movie is essentially everyone overcoming that difference and coming up with a new way to communicate, which in this movie is music and sign language, which um, is actually a very universal thing. Like sign language, I believe, is actually essentially the same no matter which language you originally spoke or whatever. Like if you can speak sign language, you can speak sign language with anyone who speaks sign language in the world. It's not like there's a specific sign language for English or French or whatever. It's all
Right.
one thing. And music, likewise, just like math is universal. Like math is
Right, which is what Contact uses for
yeah.
which is why I think Contact might have done this idea better. But
Don't get me wrong.
this one,
It,
because it's music and lights and a
it's
show at the end, it's more you get that wonder with it.
Don't get me wrong. It's not just about communication. I think there's two things this movie's about, but I think communication is one of those two pillars. That's what this movie is. It's about people not communicating and overcoming that to communicate with something new, which brings everyone together by the end of the movie. Um, so to
Okay.
to me, you sort of like hand waving that opening scene is weird to me because the opening scene is like no, it's saying it like any opening scene in any movie should be saying this is your thesis title, this is what the movie's going to be, and the
Hmm.
opening lines of this
Can't
movie.
wait for the video breakdown on it.
I'll fight you. I'll fight you. Which is why I think of Arrival being very much a modern version of Close Encounters because Arrival's whole thing is about communication and trying to understand the aliens. Now it does it in a different way, of course, and it's got its own way of like, its own unique structure and the things that it plays with. Like I must say, it's the same movie, but
Hmm.
that core idea of like aliens show up and we have to find a way to communicate, and in turn that helps us communicate better with each other. Which, funny
Yeah,
enough,
and
the
you hire
episode
John Williams to do it.
and hire John Williams is. Um, And funnily enough, the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I literally just recorded the discussion with Connor last night, essentially ended with this lesson that both Close Encounters and Arrival kind of what I just said there. The
Oh
idea,
yeah,
the
the
idea of
Jesus one.
yeah, exactly. So, um, I think that's a big part of this movie. The other big part of this movie is a very personal thing. Where it's clearly about the idea of like, can you have a normal life but also be passionate about something? Um,
It's about an artist,
About an artist, yeah, and
about somebody who's discovering art and has to. Uh, he's striving for perfection and what it does to a family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously the obvious parallel here is that Spielberg himself is a filmmaker, and that a career in filmmaking is a very passionate thing where you become obsessed because you kind of need to be. It's such a soul crushing, relentless
Yeah, I
like
think this is
task.
probably a very personal movie for him.
Yeah. And it's this fear of like, can you have a family life? Can you have that normal wife and children whilst also being that? And in this movie, the answer is kind of no. Like, it's
Yeah,
actually kind of bleak in some ways, even though there's a lot of
a little
optimism.
bit.
Um,
I don't know
so
if he had a family at this point
I
when
don't
he
think
made the film,
I don't think he did. I don't
but I
think he
think he
did.
does come from like a broken home. I watched that Spielberg documentary on HBO years ago when it came out. I say years ago, probably like 2 years ago when it came out.
Yeah.
I think I remember that being a big part is that his dad left when he was, I want to say, later, like a teenager, and was really angry. And I think the line that one of the kids use in the movie is a line that he would say said to his father.
Hmm. Yes. I wonder what the circumstances were. Did his dad leave because he had this pursuit of something, or was it just more of a shitty dad
No, I
thing?
know the answer to this.
Oh,
I remember the. You know, oh, okay. Well,
go for it.
his dad left, and everyone said like his dad even told all the kids and stuff that he was the one who left, but really it was his mother fell in love with his dad's best friend, and they
Oh.
got remarried. So afterward, but the reason that the dad took the blame for it was because he didn't want the kids to like be mad at the mother. He thought that the mother was too fragile for it or something. So, and he could take it from the kids. Pretty crazy.
The man is a saint. That's all I'm going to say. The man is basically a
Right?
saint. Um, so no, like I think it's a very personal film. Is the idea of like, can he balance this with, and I think when you look at the film from a more cynical point of view, and or maybe not even cynical, just like actually accept just what's happening on the screen rather than thinking of what the analogy is. Roy as a character is kind of a dick, a crazy dick who does a lot of bad things, and like I wouldn't blame anyone. See if anyone got to the end of this movie and said I don't like Roy because of everything he does, I would be like,
I
yeah,
know, but he's so
I can't
likable.
blame you. Yeah, but is he likable because
It's
Roy's
Richard Dreyfuss.
likable? Yeah, or is it because
He's so easy to like,
yeah, it's,
and because you're following him and you know that he's right, it's like you still are on his side somehow.
I guess if you're comparing it to the idea of the pursuit of an artistic passion, we see and believe in his artistic passion because we've seen proof of it as an audience.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that's the
And we
comparison to
know that
make.
he has to get to where he's going. You know, there is he's an artist who's striving for perfection, and everything he creates is not good enough, and it's becomes obsessed with it until he gets these little breakthroughs every now and then, and it keeps him going. And you want to see him on that journey, and unfortunately, the family's just in the way.
The father's in the way, and what also breaks up the family is a lack of communication between him and his wife.
Look at you. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I know I said no in the beginning, and you're right. Of course, it's about communication, but still, f you for laughing at me. I'm not Connor, all right? I don't take abuse. I'm a strong woman. I don't need no man to tell me what to do on this podcast, all right?
I agree. Connor is not a strong woman. I completely agree with that statement.
All right, let's move on. Said my piece.
I didn't realize it upset you so much 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I've been holding on.
Oh, you've been holding on to that. Okay. Well, I'm glad you've got it out your system. Are we good? Are we healthy now? Can we move forward?
Yes.
Do you know what? See how good it was to communicate with me and not hold it in, and how the air is cleared all of a sudden?
Okay. Don't push it. Really tired right now, all right? Close to the edge.
And you're about to break. Mm.
Trying not to lose my head.
Oh, I made a Linkin Park reference. You went with the rap song that I don't know the name of.
Yeah, I don't know either. Forgot.
Do you know what? I only know that's a reference to a rap song because I've just heard that reference made enough that I get that it's from a song, and I don't really.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's basically all it is.
There was a time I listened to rap music, but that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, not my genre. There's a lot of things that aren't my genre when it comes to music. I'm very fussy, but
It's not John Williams.
it's not John. I mean, I'm more of a Hans Zimmer guy than a John Williams guy. I have to admit.
Crimson Tide is a great score.
Hey, Crimson Tide, as it happens, is currently up for vote on the Influx patrons vote. If people want to vote for it, just put it out there.
Definitely. If this review goes up in time, everybody vote for Crimson Tide.
It may just, at least for patrons, the patrons might get it in time because they get it a week early. So
all you who haven't voted yet.
Go vote for Crimson Tide.
It's important. This is how democracy works. Otherwise, Crimson Tide could lose. Don't assume it's going to win.
Oh, you got... That was a proper political reference there. I did not expect a timely reference there, but you got one in somehow.
Boom.
Yeah, very very well done. And I told Carol 2 episodes ago that she couldn't swear, and I just got an F-bomb lobbed out of nowhere.
I just bleep it out.
I don't have a bleep at the ready.
You have to edit this.
Okay, I'm just going to mute the word and I'll pixelate your mouth.
It could be even better. Sometimes the censorship could be even funnier.
Oh, it can be. Have you ever seen Jimmy Kimmel's Unnecessary Censorship, where they do that when they're saying other things, and it just looks like they're saying the most awful things, but you know the scene from the movie anyway, so you know they're not, but it just looks like they're saying the most extreme weird shit. My favorite one was a scene from Lost where the villain should go, "We're going to have to take the boy," but they censored the word "take," so we're going to have to bleep the boy, and it just made it like 10 times funnier. Anyway,
those are great.
And look at that. Look at how we're talking about, because what does that joke come from? It comes from muddying up the communication of what's being said.
Yeah, I get it. Let's go on to the theme of the artist.
Okay, the theme of the artist. Well, I think we'll work through the film soon, and we'll talk about how these themes come in at various points. But only one of those themes comes in the opening scene. I'm just pointing that. Just pointing it.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop being a dick now.
Yeah, I'm over it. So let's move on.
Okay. So obviously the music's great. There's also a lot of faces in there, young faces that... Now, you messaged me when you were maybe like 30, 40 minutes into the movie with a eureka moment where you go, "Oh, I recognize someone," right? Mm-hmm. And what's funny is I had that same moment, but I had it in the last 30 minutes of the movie, which means he was around before then, and I just never noticed.
He's in the scene where where the French guy is doing the presentation.
Sure, yeah.
And then everybody stands up and applauds and stuff like that, and you see him there.
Yeah, this is right after the Indian chanting of the tune. Yes. So, yeah, Lance Henriksen's in there in a small role. Bishop, also the detective from Terminator and the vampire from Near Dark and a bunch of other roles that he's fantastic.
The lead of Millennium.
I
never watched.
Yeah, I never watched it.
I always remember the trailers for him.
I've heard good things. I heard that was a really solid, like, darker Chris Carter show that people were really into. It got cancelled before it maybe, like...
Wasn't it about, like, demons and stuff?
I think so. I think it may have been technically an X-Files spin-off, actually. Like, in a very loose way. I don't think you had to have seen X-Files to follow it, but, like, there was kind of like a in-the-same-universe kind of connection going on with it. But, no, I love Lance Henriksen. That was a really fun moment. Carl Weathers has a really small role as a soldier as well at one point.
Yeah. I remember that he was in it, because he's pretty hard to miss.
He's Carl
Lance
Weathers.
Henriksen looks really, like, young and smooth.
I mean, it's only...
being all wrinkled.
I mean, it's only, what, 7 years before Terminator?
Yeah. Must have been a rough 7 years.
I don't know, end of the 70s, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Yeah, he looks really young. Like, I think he's easy to miss, because he doesn't really have that many lines.
Yeah.
And he's still sort of in the background, but like
Well, actually, it was his one line of dialogue.
He's credited.
It's his one line of dialogue that I noticed. I realized it was him because he says like "look up" or something like that at one point. That's all he says. That's his entire like script. It's just him saying, "Hey, look up there." And it was when he said his line, I was like, "That's Lance Henriksen."
I can't believe I never noticed before.
Yeah, I mean he's not super young. He's just younger. I think he's still older than what I am right now in this movie. Maybe older than you. That's less
maybe
likely.
he's probably like 30.
Yeah, he's in his 30s. He's in his 30s. Oh, I'm clicking on. Let's see when he was born. What age was he? He is 37 in this movie.
Oh, okay.
So he's even older than you.
Yes. By a lot.
But yes, by a lot, of course. Yes, by tons of years.
Yeah. Practically my father.
He's probably old enough to be your grandfather, actually, in terms of his actual age. Yeah. Do you know what's weird, actually, watching movies from the 70s and stuff, and you're realizing that everyone who's about 30 in this movie is like 70 now? I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Time sneaks up on you. It really does. So, no, you got all these recognizable faces, and
Terry Garr and Melinda Dillon.
Hmm.
Who Melinda Dillon I always remember more from A Christmas Story, because she's the mother in that film.
Oh, I've seen that.
She has really curly hair, so she looks like a totally different human.
That's one of those Christmas Stories, a movie that was never a thing in the UK growing up. Like it's something when I hear it.
Even though you guys love Christmas so much.
Yeah, we love Christmas, and Home Alone was huge in my generation. Me and all my friends all grew up watching Home Alone.
You just can't get past the Dickens. You gotta watch Christmas carols, I guess.
Some Christmas carols. I love Scrooge with Bill Murray.
I mean, how many versions of Christmas Carol do you guys have? There's a new one every year.
Yeah, the main one.
Muppets.
Muppets is good. Although I think the main one I had in tape as a kid was the Disney one. There was like a animated one with Disney characters.
Oh yeah, Mickey.
Yeah.
Mickey's Christmas Carol.
I like Scrooge though with Bill Murray is the one I like. But no, I like.
I don't like that one that much.
Oh, come on. In December, guys, this is going to turn into a Christmas podcast just so that I can show Tara Scrooged again and right this wrong. So no, A Christmas Story. That was like a weird second laugh there. It's like it was funny, but then you really thought about what I said.
I made a statement like that and walked away.
But no, I saw A Christmas Story like 5 or 6 years ago. It was like, that's one that I always hear people talk about. Americans specifically. It's like, I'll watch it, and it is very much. It's actually a really solid Christmas movie for kids because it's very much about looking forward to the one present you want, and that was very much what Christmas was for me because I didn't care about religion. I just wanted presents.
Yeah.
So it spoke to me even in my older years. But
sorry.
Thanks, Foxy. Thanks for that. Sorry, listeners. So, yeah. Obviously, there's some great visuals with the ships and stuff like that. The lights and I think obviously one of the most famous moments from the film is the lights pulling up behind the car, and instead of driving around him, just lift up and rise above.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really good moment.
I love. I was watching the credits of the film, and I love it just says special effects by one guy. You don't get movies like that anymore.
Oh no. There's a reason why credits now for blockbusters are at least 10 minutes long, because it gets to special effects and then there's a list of about 1,500 names.
Yeah, and they have to have like 3 columns now to fit everyone's name.
You end up talking to a visual effects artist and they're like, oh, so what did you do in Avengers? Well, I did like 2 of the characters in one scene. That was my job. I did the CG for that one scene and just worked on that for 5 months.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. Yeah. You have a different CG company doing the background. You have a different CG company doing like CG props and all sorts. It's a whole thing. And the effects look good. They hold up. Very pretty.
I agree.
Yes. Tara's having some communication errors with her dog.
Thanks. Yeah. That's one way to put it.
Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble when this episode's over. So, we have the main plot of the movie to work through. So at this point, I am going to say full spoilers for Close Encounters of.
Oh, we're not in spoilers yet.
No.
Whoops.
Why? What did you say?
I just thought that we were.
Oh no, yeah, we're not. No, but now we are. We're now in spoilers. We've been over the spoiler threshold, as it were.
Got it.
Oh dear. How are you guys at home? Are you enjoying this empty chair portion of the podcast? Tara's went invisible, and she's still.
It's a good chair.
It's a good chair.
Got a lot of charisma.
That's true. That's true. I mean, most of you regulars will be familiar now with Tara's cat Gus and the constant issues that he likes to cause during recording.
I know, it's getting worse.
Yeah. You need to doze him with something before we record, so he's just sleeping. He's like, yeah, what? Yeah, time for sleep during recording time.
I know.
Like,
I try. He's normally just like a blob of a cat all day. He just doesn't like it when I'm up late.
The plot of the movie. We start with the scene where they find the planes from World War II that look brand new. And it's like, well, all these pilots were reported missing in the 40s. What happened? What's going on? Which, funnily enough, made me think of a Twilight Zone episode that we did not too long ago about a pilot coming through time. So that was a neat little thing to think about. And then the scene after this, and we mentioned that this was a lot of this was about communicating and how the guy who's actually the cartographer, just had to think of what the word was. He actually ends up being more useful because he can speak French, so he starts translating and doing things like that. But the next scene after this is actually just a scene in like an air traffic control room, where they're talking to two pilots in different planes, and the planes see these lights in the sky, and it's just this moment of confusion, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to hit me," and it's all you have to bank now, and so on and so on. Do you bank in a proper plane? I don't know.
I'm sure he did a barrel roll.
He did a barrel roll. It's a 747 full of hundreds of passengers, and he's doing a barrel roll. But so afterwards, there's a neat thing at the end of the scene though, where they're like, "Hey, do you want to report a UFO?" And he's like, "No, I don't want to report that." And then he asks the second pilot, he's like, "Nah, we don't want to report anything either because we wouldn't know what to report." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And I think that's actually a really good scene. I do think it's a mistake putting this second. I think that we should have maybe been introduced to Roy, quicker.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I always like this scene a lot because it really shows off Spielberg's skill as a director, because everybody's just talking in full jargon, full air traffic control jargon. And immediately because of the direction and because what everyone around him, the guy who's talking directly with the pilots, is they're all of their mannerisms and the fact that everyone's leaning in, and you start to really intensify what you're listening to, and for the most part you can follow it, but it should be a really boring scene because you don't really see anything. You're just listening to a guy talk to somebody over a radio, and it gets really tense really fast, and you realize you're watching something that is alien, that's happening, and I think it's really well done. I've always really liked this scene a lot.
Oh no, like I said, I like the scene a lot. I think the scene's handled perfectly, and I like the point of the scene is that even when they see something, they're just not willing to go on the record for it. I just think it should have been moved after.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to see Roy before we do, because Roy's introduction is, his Family Guy who's trying to he's stuck in the middle of this situation that's progressing, and that is more of a progression.
Yeah, I just think it would be nice to get a sense of him and get this sort of okay, this is our protagonist, this is our main character, before we go back to kind of the world building again. I just thought it was strange for me that there was two completely separate world building scenes before we get to our main character. It's a very little thing. It's not a big deal. It's just one of those little things where I'm like, oh, I would have swapped that scene with maybe the next scene. So I'd put because Roy's introduction, of course, we meet him with his family, who isn't first. We actually meet the single mum first, Gillian. But you know, like a big part of his home life is how chaotic it is. It's almost annoying to watch at points because the kids are constantly making noise and they're kind of shouting over each other.
Yeah, but
And
that's Spielberg thing, right? Like
yeah, yes,
every time there's
but
always yeah, everybody's always talking on top of each other. You don't really know who to listen to until like the people start calming down because there's something happening.
yeah, and I think here though it's more chaotic, and I think it's meant to paint his family life as miserable, and you don't want any part of it, which is maybe what makes you side with him a bit more when he starts gravitating away from it. Uh, yeah.
Maybe, but there is a scene in the middle of the film that is pretty hard to watch at the dinner table, and
Oh
like the
sure.
kids crying and stuff, and you're like, oh, like this is really rough.
Oh yeah, I'm not like, but here's the thing though. What I think's interesting is that he doesn't choose to leave his family. His family, well, no, not the whole family. The kids don't exactly have a choice in it, but the mum chooses to leave him. And it's not so much to say that I'm saying it's her fault that they do separate, because obviously the way he's being is very much the cause of it. But I think it's very interesting, this idea that if this is Spielberg kind of like being scared of what he can and can't have, is he's scared that his passion for what he does will drive someone away and they'll make the choice themselves to abandon him.
Right?
You know,
Because they can't understand.
yeah, they just can't understand what we know, the way his mind works, and so on and so on. So, but you know, so much of it's so noisy. The kids are, and I'm like, yeah, throw the kids out the window. Just go for it. It's fine.
I don't know, when he wakes them all up and they're like
Oh,
halfway off the bed or like sleeping with their butt in the air,
yeah,
it's pretty
yeah.
great.
No, I was going to mention this. The way his kids sleep, they're like freaking aliens themselves. The daughter is lying face down, but has her knees up to her chest, so her ass is like straight up into the air. And then when he goes into the boys' room, one of the boys is on a bunk bed, and his like the entire bottom half of his body is literally draped off the side of the bed. But it's not even like he's lying horizontal in the bed. He's his top half is completely as you'd expect. His legs just veer off the side and are really awkward. It looks so uncomfortable.
I know, but those kids, it's so funny.
I never slept
It
with that
doesn't
as a
even
kid.
face him as a dad because he's clearly seen this every single day when he has to wake up the kids.
Also, I did notice actually when he goes into work, because he works for the electric board or whatever. He goes in and there's a big power out. That's what kind of like gets everything going. Obviously, it's the UFOs that have caused it. He goes in and they keep talking about Crystal Lake, and obviously,
I know.
and I just started
I noticed that
laughing.
for the first time this time too while watching it.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, Friday the 13th came later, and obviously Crystal Lake is a real name that's of a few places, so
I'm sure. Yeah.
it's fair enough. But it just now all I can think of when I hear Crystal Lake is you know, that's all I can think about. I was like, oh, Jason's got his shot. We got Jason Voorhees on the prowl.
Jason's an alien, confirmed.
Oh yeah, sure. Hell, makes sense. He's been to space.
Hmm?
What if this is the second Earth? What if this is the Earth from the end of Jason X, where he lands on a new planet that's Earth-like? This is actually not our Earth. This is the Earth that he lands on after being in space.
And we thought this was a story of benevolent aliens. We were wrong.
Nah, there's a violent slasher villain prowling the hills looking for his next victim. So, and you know, we get all the toys playing up. You know, at Jillian's house, like all of the son's toys start going on with themselves and acting weird and so on and so on. And he goes out on his own he's meant to go and fix some thing somewhere, some electrical box. I don't know. They speak in jargon so quickly that you get the gist that he's going to fix, you know, something in the power grid. But
Right. He's being given responsibility.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't want him to have it. And then another person's like, well, I'm giving it to him because the main guy is stuck doing something else. You get the idea that it's just chaotic.
yeah,
and
the entire
he's being given an
town.
opportunity that is good for him.
Yeah, the entire town has lost its power, so clearly it's chaotic. There's people, they're all running around trying to fix things, and this is not a one-man job, clearly. So, but they send him out, and he's getting lost and try to read maps, which again is kind of tied into the theme of the movie, where like the entire message is about a location, and he's struggling to look through a map, and you know, we have multiple characters and multiple plots looking at maps and globes and other things and all that kind of thing. But yeah, so and what I love about the whole lights behind the car that go up thing is that they actually set it up beautifully. You know, Spielberg has it happen normally first, where as a car it comes up behind them, and I always forget this because when the car came up behind him, I expected it to go up because you just see the lights,
No.
right? And
Yeah, it's setting you up.
yeah, and then it drives, and then it just drives around him normal, and the guy's like, "Oh, you're in the middle of the road, dickhead," or whatever he says, and I'm like, "Oh, that's neat." He actually, like, I always remember the payoff.
Turkey.
That's right. Yes, he calls him a turkey as he drives away. That's right.
I just love the way he shouts, "Turkey!"
Is that a common insult in this part of the country?
I want to say yes for this time.
For this time, sure.
Because I've seen other films from the 70s where turkey is like an insult.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the 70s, I noticed a lot of product placement in this, but obviously it's the 70s, so
There's
it's like
a lot of Budweiser.
yeah. Baskin Robbins had a completely different logo. I was not prepared for that.
Piggly Wiggly.
Yes. Although McDonald's hasn't changed a bit. They cut to McDonald's at one point. I'm like, that looks exactly like a McDonald's right now in 2019.
Yeah, there's one scene where he's like building a clay sculpture and he's just surrounded by cans of Budweiser and the TV's on and there's a Budweiser commercial and then later you see like a Budweiser truck. You're like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. What's funny is that Sony didn't own Columbia yet, but that's a very Sony thing to do. Like I think of Sony when I think of bad product placement. So it's really funny.
Transformers.
They ended up
like
owning this.
World War Z.
Well, Transformers wasn't Sony. Transformers was Paramount.
Oh, I think of Transformers.
No, that's a fair one. They have a lot. Like all the cars happen to be the same. Like every single car in the movie is the same make, or same brand. What the correct term is, I don't know.
Yeah, make is right.
Yeah. So we have the big famous light scene, and we get yeah, he essentially has this experience where he's looking up at the light, and there's like the bright lights, and the mailboxes are shaking, and everything's rumbling, and then he chases off after it because he has to like prove to himself that he's seen it. This is the start of the obsession.
And he hears over the radio that it's moving, that other people are noticing it. I don't know if it's picking up just other like electrical crew people or just people, I don't know, civilians just on a radio, but like he's picking it up and has to chase it.
Yeah, and he ends up, it's like him and a couple of cops. He almost hits the Jillian's son because who's wandered out, because she's basically chasing him. Like he's wandered out from the house and she's just chasing him basically. Yeah. But they all end up seeing these ships, all three ships, and then the one final little red light kind of flying past. And it's this spiritual experience for them. And Roy gets sunburned essentially, like down half of his face. He's got a bit of a two-faced thing going. His wife's concerned about this. The next day, and even before we get to that, he comes in and he's like raving and ranting. He's like, "Oh, I saw this thing and it was like whoosh," and he's like, "Oh, we have to go see this thing. I need to wake up the kids." And that's when we get the kids all lying weird.
It's better than Goofy Golf. I don't know what Goofy Golf is, but it sounds fun.
I imagine it's the local mini golf place.
Yeah, probably.
My guess. So they go out, and she's kind of miserable about it, and he's trying to share this experience with her, and she doesn't really care. And what I think is interesting, like the one bit.
Yeah, she's asking questions, but she's also kind of patronizing.
Yeah, but the one interesting thing I thought that the only real bit of character I think she gets this whole movie, actually, the wife Ronnie, is that she tries to kind of like be intimate with him while they're out looking up at the sky, and she's kind of like kissing him, and it's actually kind of a funny scene because he is just looking at different points and not really paying attention, and she's like kissing on his neck and like near his mouth, and he almost turns around and it looks like he's lining up for the kiss, but he's actually just slightly off because he's looking right past her, and she's still trying to kiss him, and he does eventually kind of smell at her and kiss her, but it takes so long. But what I thought was interesting to just analyze just from a character perspective is that for me, this is kind of her last ditch effort before she knows how crazy he's getting. It's like he's so interested in this. I want him to not care about this. I want to try and distract him with just being the loving wife right now. And because there's not a lot of romance between them. It doesn't feel like this is the only time in the whole movie where it feels like, oh yeah, there's a spark of romance, or there once was, and she's trying to reignite it because he's losing interest, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean the kids are probably passed out in the car, and like she's trying to reminisce old times when they used to go to places to make out in the evening and look at the stars.
And he's just like
he could not be less interested.
Yeah. What was that, honey? Yes. Yeah, sure, we can get a puppy. Um, no, so I like that, and obviously, and I'm going to stick to his plot rather than jump back to the others because I feel like it's just easier to stick with the one kind of through line. Um, is he like obviously starts to kind of draw this shape, but he sees the pillow sitting just up the right way, and it looks kind of like a mountain, and he keeps seeing this, and it turns out that the son, Gillian's son's drawing this as well, and you feel like even though there's nothing romantic between them, and more there'll be talk about a moment later, but that they've shared this experience, so it's almost like he connects more to her than his wife. Like so so him and her and a bunch of other people who saw the UFOs have all shown up to this the next night, hoping they're going to see something else, and they don't. They see some helicopters, and that's it. But and we see him like build this shape out of various things. You were talking about the dinner scene. That's one of the big earlier ones where he's getting these mashed potato out the bowl, and he ends up just he keeps taking more, and then eventually starts to try and form it into the mountain shape, and everyone's just kind of staring at him, and you've got that moment where his son is like got a tear down his eye, and he's like, oh.
Well, this comes after the final straw or just about the final straw for Terry Garr's character, for his wife, because they go to
the first wife.
Huh?
You said the first wife?
No, his wife.
Oh, his wife. So I was like, the first wife? What was the second wife? What did that happen?
No, his wife. But yeah, because right before that scene, they go to some kind of conference or whatever where everybody is gathered who say that they've all seen.
Yeah. Well, we should talk, actually.
And she's there to support him.
We should go further back because what inspires that, of course, because I was sticking with him, but we should probably mention that Gillian's son is actually abducted by aliens.
Yes.
Because that's what actually leads to this conference where they go and talk to these politicians or whoever it is.
Yeah, I think it's politician. I think the military's there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, and obviously this is one of the big classic scenes from this movie where all the lights start hitting the house and this is very blinding, and the sun's trying to she actually shuts all the windows, she shuts everything, and the sun's going out the cat flap.
Yeah, this is a cat owner. It's a dog door.
It's a dog door.
Yeah, it's a dog door.
Well, you get cat flaps still our thing. What's the difference?
I've never heard of that.
You've never heard of a cat flap?
Nope. They're doggy doors.
Cat flaps are a thing, goddammit.
It sounds Scottish to me.
No! I've heard this in movies and everything. People in the comments, please help a Scottish podcaster out and confirm that cat flap is a term that is used by people.
No, I don't think so. I think you made it up. You can definitely get cat doors, but that's for a dog.
Cat flap. Do you know what this is, Tara? This is a failure to communicate. That's what this is.
Screw you.
Just watch. By the end of this podcast, we're going to overcome this, and we're going to communicate in harmony. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
Are we going to communicate with a jazz section?
Yeah, I don't have a guitar anymore. I don't.
Flashlights.
I'd grabbed it out.
We're just gonna jam.
It's good jam. Yeah, I'll say a song without lyrics.
Jam session.
Uh-huh.
We'll see what the tone of the music is. That's how we'll know. That's how we'll know if we're good or not.
Yeah. So if you hit me with Slipknot, I think something might be wrong.
Anyway, this is the one scene in the film where it's like a horror film.
Oh sure, yeah, it is. It's very intense,
which is why it's memorable, I think.
Yeah, because one of the things that they put in a lot of the covers, if they're not using the poster, sometimes now is the boy standing at the door, with the light. They kind of homaged it in Stranger Things season 2. It's a very, very iconic moment in the film.
Right, the keyhole with the light coming through. Yeah.
Very good, very good. But this is what inspires us. So her son's legitimately gone and missing, and she believes it's aliens. Of course, everyone's laughing at her. Well, not everyone, but these people at this meeting are laughing at her and saying, "No, we'd all like to believe in time travel and Santa Claus, but it's just not a thing." And the sad part is that we actually know there is like a secret sect of scientists who are actually exploring this and looking at it, and
I think the sad part here is that his wife is with him to support him. Like, I'm gonna go to this with you, but like during the conference, someone who was there and saw the alien ship with him stands up and says, "I saw Bigfoot once," and it totally like you know delegitimizes everything that he's been trying to do because okay, well this guy's a kook, but he's right about the alien part.
If you compare this to the whole artist analogy, you could argue that this is like Bigfoot guy's kind of like that douchebag who always says he's a writer but never actually writes anything. So it kind of delegitimizes anyone who actually says they want to have a career in writing, kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
I'll just go with it because you brought up the Bigfoot dude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just kind of sucks, because he's really working hard to get his wife on his side, and she's really putting in the effort because, she thinks he's crazy, but she loves him, so she's going with him.
Yeah.
And then something like that happens, and she can't help but laugh. Like, okay, like we're done with this now, right? Like, clearly this guy's crazy.
What I think is also interesting about this is that if we're going back to that theme of communication, is that this doesn't even get a language barrier. This is literally refusing to communicate even though they're all speaking the same language. This is willingness to not be on the same page. And it's a divide. And I'm honestly not bringing this up to annoy you. Like when I actually start talking about communication in the movie, I'm not doing it to annoy you. I'm actually I
really did my best to not look annoyed.
In the same way that
apparently I failed.
Yes. In the same way that I applied the Bigfoot guy to the artist analogy, I need to talk about, the communication aspect of this. And I'm going to keep doing that. So just brace yourself. And I'm not doing it to be a dick.
Okay. You don't have to say it every time. I don't need a disclaimer if you're going to talk about communication. Clearly that's what this movie's about.
See, there was a tone there.
God damn it. Let's just get through this freaking review already. It's late. Don't have to bleep that one.
Thank you. So considerate. And that's more sarcastic than I intended. I actually meant that to be kind of genuine, but it's okay.
Communication error. I got it.
Communication error. See, you're getting it. You can do it. So we have the mashed potato scene. And the son's crying because he's clearly snapped, and he's making a mountain of mashed potato, and he's got it all over his hands. He looks genuinely kind of unhinged, and he does apologize, and he says whatever, and he even forms one out of clay on his little train track at one point as well. That kind of comes next, and he does kind of like try to acknowledge that he is going off the deep end a little bit at this point in the movie, but of course he doesn't take too long for him to be inspired again and go further down.
Well, there's a breakthrough, yeah.
There's a breakthrough when the top of his mountain falls off, and he sees it with a flat top. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is more up what I'm seeing in my head. This is actually closer to it.
This is the shape I've been trying to get. Yeah, it's there.
It's not been happening. And this is when we get more or less the big wonderful scene where he starts ripping out the plants in the garden and just casually throwing them into the kitchen window. Genuine crazy man behavior. He steals the chicken fence from the neighbor and says, "I'll pay you back for it, don't worry." Doesn't change the fact that our chickens are all running around now.
I know, all those poor little ducks.
And he's and because at this point you're not really sure what he's doing. Like, why is he throwing things in the kitchen? This is weird. Like,
Yeah, but he's got so much passion, and he's just like, it's okay, I'll pay you for the wire. Like, It's going to be worth it. Like, once you see the finished product, you're gonna be like, okay, I understand. This is why you needed to do it.
He says that
he still has that obsession in his head. Like, this is all going to pay off. This is all going to go towards something that everyone is going to understand.
Appreciate. I think is an even better way to go with it, because the idea that an unfinished project, an unfinished script, and you can see it in your head, but it's not done yet, so no one really gets what you're doing. I think as a filmmaker, especially, I think there's a lot of things where you can see, you can pitch your idea to someone, and they might just not understand the tone you're going to go for or how it's going to work when it all clicks together. But you can see it as a film. You can see it in your head as a director. You're like, no, I know how I'm going to make this work with that. It's going to have this payoff, and it's going to be an emotional ending. You're going to be weeping in the final scenes, and even though you can't necessarily imagine it right now, and everyone just thinks you're crazy and keeps telling you, no, that'll never work. You can't do that. Blah 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 blah. So we find out obviously that he's eventually just building a giant version of Devil's Tower out of mud and various other things in his house.
Yeah.
But this is
it's a nice callback because you see that he works on model trains and stuff. Like you see, like that is there's like a room where he does that. He's already into that kind of sculpting, and that's his creative outlet, and his interpretation of this image in his head has to be done in 3D, which is important to the plot later.
Oh, sure. And actually, does this mean that like Gordon on Big Little Lies might actually be a better person than we thought, and Renata might have went off the deep end a little bit with her reaction?
No. Gordon's a turd of a human being.
Yes. I was just want to crack a joke because he also did model trains, okay? That was the extent of that. No, he, this is the scene where the wife, where Ronnie decides to leave and like grabs the kid and just goes, and he does try and kind of convince her to stay. He's like, no, please wait, and he jumps on the car and everything, which also again just makes him look more crazy. Like everything he's doing is making him look more like he's going off the deep end, and he just kind of stands up after they've driven off and like sort of like closes his bathrobe and just kind of like and just sort of walks back home with his
and then he crawls in through like the kitchen window instead of a door like a normal human.
He throws in one more plant with dirt, because all the plants have like proper clumps of dirt at the bottom from the roots, and he just jumps in after it as you do, just casually in the window. He's building this, and of course it's after he's done this where there's a thing on TV, because the other plot, we've heard that the other scientists have figured out that all this stuff's going to go down at Devil's Tower, and they want to evacuate the entire area, the entire like big square radius of the place, and so there's this toxic leak they've made up, which is going on TV, and it's but this is what shows Roy and the others that have seen the UFOs, and they're having this obsession. This is where they see Devil's Tower and go, that's where I need to go. That's the place I need to be. So the movie kind of becomes this like journey, this trip for him as he's trying to get there, and they're trying to evacuate like the surrounding towns when he's getting there. So he's having to like fight against. This is where we get Carl Wells as a soldier. He runs into Jillian, who's also on her way here. And they end up teaming up, and they drive across country, off road and everything, try to get in. And of course, they're picked up fairly quickly by soldiers and scientists who are like, "Wait, what are you guys doing in here? You're not meant to be here. What's going on? How dare you?"
Yeah, you see a ton of dead animals on the side of the road while they're driving.
Which is interesting that they actually to try and sell this as much as they did, they either just straight up went and killed a bunch of animals, or did release something that was somewhat toxic for a brief time, just to sell the lie, which is kind of dark.
The animals definitely look dead, but they say later on that they used a sleeping chemical.
Okay, so just asleep. That's what you said to me.
Yeah, but they looked clearly dead. Like those sheep that were on the side of the road looked pretty frail. Yeah,
we see horses, we see cows. I feel like Tara's trying to be hopeful because she's vegan, but ultimately they're dead, Jim. Sorry. She's dead, Jim! I can't do a Scotty voice because Scotty's not got a real Scottish accent. It's a really fake thing.
It's funny.
She can't take it, Captain. See.
Yeah, so it's the same gas that they use later on, and they say that it's just a sleeping agent. They'll sleep for like 6 hours and wake up with a bad headache, and they say it's the same thing we used on the livestock.
Yeah. All right, so this is where we kind of get into the last chunk of the movie, and obviously we've not talked about the scientist stuff. We'll kind of go back and do that in a second, but where he's interviewed by the two main guys we've been following, the translator, who's the map guy, and then also the French dude who's been kind of the head of the whole thing, the head of the operation. And Yeah, I mean, I think what you said about the opening scene where it's showing you that it's not just Americans, I think is important because it is kind of like the whole idea of everyone overcoming the language barriers only works if you have different languages. If it was just Americans, that wouldn't be a thing. If anything, I would critique that later on when we see people get into the ship, like they all have American flags on their shoulder. I'm like, what? There's no people been sent in from anywhere else? Are you serious?
Yeah, well, it's definitely an American army that is out there too.
It's
You
in
don't
the
see
US.
anything else.
This is Devil's Tower. It'd be kind of weird if there was like, here's the French battalion. Here's the
Right, and I'm sure all the people in the jumpsuits are American because they're part of the military.
yeah, yeah. They're all volunteers, and of course Roy gets to go too because he's obsessed and is offered a chance. And obviously, I think obviously that represents
And he's still American.
yeah, it represents that plunge that he's taken and the risk that he's taken by pursuing this career. I mean, I guess because if you look at the analogy, because it does look bad when you look at the movie at face value, where he just kind of like stops caring about his family leave him, and then he cares so little that he just cares about his passion that he goes to Devil's Tower and goes off. But not only that, he kisses Jillian. This is the one thing I genuinely dislike in the movie. I don't like the kiss with Jillian before he goes down. I don't get the point.
Don't mind it. I really don't. Like, I know I should mind it because it seems more like they may have like a work husband, work wife kind of relationship. But I don't think so. I think it is past that. I think they show you his family that he's not, that has abandoned him because of his pursuit. But he, in a way, with her and her son, even though she's wearing like a wedding ring, which I don't know if is a mistake or not, is like they've become like a family. Like you are sort of watching them as a family go on this journey together.
Okay, I guess I like the fact that it wasn't romantic, and then out of nowhere there's this kiss moment. Like I like the idea that
I don't know, like they really go on like this pursuit of passion that I think it's justified more so than we've seen in other films.
That's fair. But like, so what I was getting at is that, yeah, if you look at it at face value, that's how it comes off. But ultimately, if you look at the film as an analogy, it's not so much that he literally has a family. It's that this is the idea of like what he's, because if you take the ending as him taking that leap of faith where I want to pursue this passion I have, and this is the choice I'm making to pursue, in this case, a career in filmmaking, if we're comparing it to Spielberg.
I think he's already abandoned the fact that his family is left him.
No.
That's his life.
No. You misunderstand. Forget that he literally had a family in the movie. If the end of the movie is Roy making the choice as Spielberg to pursue filmmaking, like, no, this is my passion, and the family isn't literally a family that he had, it's just the idea of what he's supposed to have. It's the idea at the end of the film is just him making the choice to start this journey, and everything before it is just the thought process of like, this is what I could or could not have if I do this kind of thing.
Okay.
So, and obviously in the film he did have a family and he did lose that, but I'm saying if you look at the film as an analogy and what the thought process is behind it, I think the idea why you shouldn't necessarily care that he has kind of just abandoned this family the way that he has is because he's abandoning the idea of having a family as opposed to abandoning a literal family.
That if you want for people who really are like creative and artists, like they can't have the normal life that they're supposed to have, or the family's just not going to work out, and he's accepted that this is okay, like so long as the end is worth it, then he doesn't need to have the family.
Yeah. That said though, I think it's I don't think it's actually accurate. I would disagree that this is actually completely true, but I
mean he does have a family eventually.
Yeah, but I think the point But I think the point is that this is the fear. This is like the fear at the start of the journey where you think you can, and he has to accept that it might not happen because he makes this choice. The fact that it in real life did eventually happen proves that no, it can still happen. You don't have to necessarily rule it out. But the idea that to make that leap,
he's still a pretty young man at this early in his career.
Oh sure, yeah. But the point I'm making is that he, in order to commit himself to this path, this job, this art form that he wants to do, he has to, for himself, had to admit to himself that he's accepting that it's okay if I don't have those other things because this is what I care about. And it's this very much personal choice. And because it is him literally talking about the artist, and in this case about himself being a filmmaker, it's a very personal thing where this is legitimately just from his point of view and doesn't necessarily apply to another artist who might think about these same things. It doesn't necessarily apply to any other type of rough choice someone might make. And that's why I always come back to saying this is one of his most personal films, because it can apply to other people, sure, it absolutely can, but I think it's very specific. It feels very specific to me about kind of what was going through his head at the time.
I think so too.
So, but yeah, because at one point, I mean, Roy's even asked, like, "Are you an artist of some kind?" Like, they even ask him that when they're interviewing him.
Yeah, but he's too obsessed with like who everybody is to answer it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Because I do think that the movie is a little bit overlong for me. I do think you could shave off some time, and some of it might even be from the ending, because we actually spend a lot of time on Devil's Tower at the end. There's a good like 30+ minutes of the movie takes place there.
Yeah, this is the big payoff scene, and I agree.
I'd forgotten how much I'd forgotten that we got the 3 ships, and then there was a lot of waiting again before the big ship comes, and I was feeling the pacing a bit. I was like, I thought the movie was almost over. There's like 25 minutes left. How the hell is there 25 minutes between now and him getting on the ship? What happens in this next 20 minutes?
Yeah, there's a huge spectacle thing at the end, and I think there's a lot of like trying to chase that Beyond Jupiter's Kubrick going on in this scene.
Yes.
But he's trying to outdo the spectacle by adding the music and the light show and all that. But it's still really well done. The only thing I don't really enjoy about the scene, like much like the TV version of the film showed you the inside of the ship, I don't need that much aliens.
Sure.
I don't know if I need them at all, to be honest, because I don't think they pull it off.
I like the first alien. I like the one that's kind of Slender Man-esque. I thought that was a really cool effect.
Spidery one.
I thought all the more traditional looking small aliens that came out, though, I could have done without them. That felt a bit too cheesy to me.
The last like ET one, I don't like at all.
Yeah. I like the overall like idea of like them going into, because obviously the first thing that happens when the big ship comes is that it opens and all the people who have been taken over the years come out. So the pilots, the son, who's obviously only been gone for a small amount of time, relatively speaking, but all these people come back, and it's like they've not aged. It's like they've been in stasis or whatever for however long.
Although they have like 70s sideburns.
And if you're paying attention, you're looking at some of the different extras, you can see that, one's dressed like a completely different time period than,
Yeah.
There's some other ones mixed in there to give the impression.
It's like a Victorian one, and then there's like a woman just in her nightgown. There's a farmer. Yeah, it's a fun like I Spy kind of moment where in the film where you're just looking, see what you can catch.
Yeah.
And I do really like all that stuff. It kind of pays off the whole planes in the beginning because they're checking off all the pilots who have come back too.
Yeah, and
from the beginning.
And this entire thing is legitimately them trying to communicate with the aliens and not quite getting it at first, but then figuring it out and speeding up the track, or because the guy playing the keyboard, he's literally just playing the tune. And again, there's a lot of technical jargon. I actually follow the technical jargon here a lot better though, because I did music in high school. So I mean, I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I understand when he's saying go down an octave or do 4 quavers or whatever. Like I understand what all that means more or less. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know it holds up for people who are into music.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the air traffic control people were really excited about that scene too.
Oh, no doubt. I'm sure they all loved it. But and again, it goes back to it being the kind of a universal language music, where this would be true equally no matter like who. The fact that I learned music like 25 years, 30 years after this movie came out, and all the terms are still the same, and nothing's changed. Like it's still what it is.
And we know that music is like it is a way of communicating emotion, especially with John Williams behind it. And because Spielberg especially has used music, the swelling of the music, to get the emotions out of a scene, and a lot of times he gets criticized for it because it feels forced. but I don't think that's deserved. I think if it happens, then it's successful. If you're moved because of music, then it's done correctly.
Yeah, I have no problem. Like people who say music manipulates you, the entire film is manipulating you. Art is
Yeah.
a thing.
Why is that an issue?
The whole point is that it's manipulating you to get certain emotions. That's the point of the whole thing.
Right.
That's okay. And that's not to say that I don't like a movie that chooses not to have music and wants that eerie silence the whole time, because that's also manipulating me. It's also
Right.
giving me a feeling.
It's used in this film too, when he's first in the truck looking at the map,
It's just quiet,
and
yeah.
all of a sudden all the crickets that you've been hearing just disappear, and you're like, you notice it, like something's wrong.
Yeah. It's a choice. Sometimes, depending on what mood you want. Maybe you want music, maybe you don't. Maybe you want something that's a bit more just in the background and isn't noticeable. Maybe you want something that is more bombastic and really like takes front and center stage. All of these options are completely valid, and all of them work for whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
So, no, I. So here's a question then: what is your favorite John Williams score?
Superman.
That is an excellent choice. That's also my favorite.
It's easy.
It's all my favorite. I feel like I usually have to argue with people because they always go with Star Wars.
I mean, Star Wars is pretty great. Um,
Oh, it is. I
there's
can't
something
fault
about
it.
that Superman theme.
A Superman theme. There's so many good themes in that score. I love Jurassic Park as well. The
Hmm.
score,
Indiana Jones too,
of course, of course.
but yeah, I don't think anything beats the Superman theme. It's my favorite.
Yes, there's a reason why Tara was on this show, and thousands more were turned away.
Oh, wow. I did not know I was the best. Maybe I should cool it on the criticism.
Yes, it was let on the show for good taste. Admittedly, if I had known I was going to get so much cheek, maybe I would have reconsidered my options.
I'll tone things down.
Ah, don't you dare! Don't you
Oh,
dare!
mighty movie critic, teach me.
All right. Don't patronize me. All right. So, no, like the ending, like it does drag on a little bit, and I felt it on this viewing. And it's a minor complaint, but it does kind of stick there a little bit, and I think it just goes into the movie having a little bit of pacing problems here or there for me. Is one of the things that sticks out. But I do like the overall messages of the film, and I love that there is these two or three really big themes that the film's playing with that really work. I just don't think it's as tight or as smooth as Spielberg's best stuff. Where
I don't know. I mean, I think you're right about the length of it. I think it could use another trim. And if you wanted to just do it from Roy's journey, you could cut out quite a bit of it. Like you don't really need all the stuff where like the government is setting up the train explosion or the chemical leak, because then you can follow along with him. Like,
yeah,
oh, is he being manipulated, or is it really really is an accident?
Exactly. If anything, it would enhance some of that stuff a bit because we wouldn't know. Like because we know.
Right. Although I do still find myself when I watch it like going, wait, is it real? No, I know it's fake because it is really well done. And so you have to like remind yourself that I did see that scene before.
I almost would cut a lot of the sign, even though I enjoy a lot of those scenes for what they are. I think
they're great actors. It's a great dialogue, and it is part of the fun, like figuring out, oh, it's a map. Like these are coordinates.
Yeah, and it does certainly add a lot to the theme of communication. So funnily enough, I still think it would be there, of course, for the rest of it, but it wouldn't be as pronounced if all the scientist stuff was cut out. I think you do need the scene at the start. I think you need the scene at the start with the planes to set up some stuff and just set up the idea that these are people who are going to be working on it. And then it'd be kind of a nice thing when you come back at the end and we're at Devil's Tower and we're like, oh, these are the guys from the start of the movie. So, and it would all kind of come back. But obviously we have these scenes of them going to India, of them figuring out the coordinates and, moving the big globe around and whatever else. And all that stuff is enjoyable, but I would almost be interested to see a version that kind of trims that. And I almost think as well, one of the things you can maybe trim is, I don't know if I needed as much of them climbing the mountain to get there. Like, like, I don't know if I needed to see how physically hard that journey was. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't mind it so much. It kind of reminded me of like a Journey to the Center of the Earth scene. like there is a part where, he's in peril and he's falling and she's reaching out to him and it's just
Yeah.
like just in the nick of time they she gets him out and he believes in himself again and then they're there and it's just kind of relaxed.
Yeah. I don't know, like there was a point where like they're dodging from helicopters, seeing them and they're hiding and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I mean this is fine, but I don't know if it's necessarily like super important to like what the film's doing overall. This sort of section, like the actual like when they're first getting into the town and they're like sort of seeing all the dead things, and again maybe that would even benefit from not knowing if if it was real or not. The toxic leak of, because it's not a gas leak, it's odorless, it's colorless, it's
It's like a
something,
chemical,
yeah,
chemical leak or something.
something magical that you've never heard of, but just made up.
Yeah, they said, well, we should do anthrax. No, because there's always going to be someone who thinks he's immune. It's got to be something bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, like, so yeah, I have quibbles. Like I have some things here or there that make it not like, because if because someday we're going to talk about ET, someday we're going to talk about Jurassic Park, someday we're going to talk about some of these other films, and Jurassic Park, funnily enough, was the first movie I ever saw in a theater, so it has a special place in my heart, just because that.
I mean, Jurassic Park is like the way my father talks about like Star Wars and Alien. Going to see that for the first time, that's what Jurassic Park was for me.
Yeah,
that was a movie that made me go, oh, I didn't know movies could do this.
I'll be honest though, I feel like most of my favorite movies from my childhood and like the 90s, I feel like most of them though were movies that I couldn't go like there were movies that I had in VHS from TV, like it was Terminator and things like that, which we've talked about before. So like, and it kind of sucks. I feel like so many things I loved growing up that they eventually had sequels when I was old enough, and I was like, oh, I get to go to the theater. And I remember going to see Superman Returns and hearing that main theme in the theater as the opening titles were flying past me, and then that movie is just this boring sludge of a film.
No.
Terminator, I'm excited to hear that main theme. Terminator 3, what does it do? It's in these closing credits and nowhere else in the entire film, and the movie's just kind of bland.
Really?
Yeah.
We're watching that soon too.
That's that. Is that on next week?
I haven't seen it since the theater.
I think that's next week's movie. I think Terminator. We'll tell you for sure at the end, but I think it's next week. So yeah, I've not seen. I saw it a couple of times. I think I convinced myself I liked it because I was just young enough that I still did that with some movies.
Yeah, well, she is pretty hot.
I don't know. I was never. It was never about Kristanna Loken. We'll talk about this more next week, but it was never. I don't think it was ever about her. I had to like Terminator 3 because I love 1 and 2 so much. I had to like it. Like that first teaser trailer where the Warner Brothers logo like shattered and then it reformed like a T1000 and the new like brass version of the main theme played. I was so hyped. I was so pumped for Terminator 3, and it's just kind of like, it exists.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way about The Lost World, the teaser trailer that came out during the Super Bowl, which was just a foot coming down, and then the puddle doing the guitar string thing. And
the guitar
it was
string
just like
thing.
The Lost World showing up through the ripples. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so pumped. And I read the book, which is not something I ever did as a kid, but I read that. And I still came out of that movie going, kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
That girl do gymnastics.
Another favorite franchise of mine. Oh, I can't wait till I can finally see an Alien movie in the theaters. Prometheus.
Oh,
yeah. I can't wait till I finally see a Predator movie in the theaters. Predators.
No, I don't like that movie at all.
Yeah.
Remember the teaser trailer for that, and it was just like
it was like
people
tons
with
of
like
lasers.
all of the targets on them, the 3 little targets, and it's like 100 predators. You're like, oh my God, there's gonna be so many predators, and it's like 3.
Yeah, that scene is not even.
It totally doesn't sell the same movie.
Yeah, but it's not even like there's that scene in the movie but with less lasers. That scene just isn't in the movie at all. Like, there's nothing like that in the movie.
No.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is every like movie or franchise that I loved as a kid, where there's like 2 or 3 great movies in the franchise, and I grew up loving them, and I was so excited to finally get to see one in the theater. Every single one has been disappointing. I can't think of one that wasn't. It's like I finally get to see a movie. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of any more. Those are the ones like Die Hard. I mean, Die Hard 4 wasn't terrible actually. Die Hard 4 is okay.
I like 3.
Yeah, I like 3 too. Oh, 3's better. 3's much better. But 4 was the first one I got to see in the theater, and it was okay. 5 on the other hand.
I saw 3 before I saw any of the other ones. That was the one with Jeremy Irons, right?
Yeah, that was the Simon Says one.
Yeah. That was the first Die Hard movie I'd ever seen.
Yeah, Hans Gruber was Simon's bro. Have you not heard the Guys'
Maybe
Night
different
song?
accents, but
About
okay.
Die Hard. What?
Don't they have different accents? Well, Hans Gruber's supposed to be
German.
German.
Yeah. Mr.
He's not.
Takagi. I have one just like it. I can't do it. I can't do the voice. But I love Alan Rickman in that movie. Alan Rickman is so good in Die Hard.
He's so evil.
He's great. He's great. It's a nice suit. Be ashamed to ruin it. Gotta make fish with your toes. Anyway, so no, where was that? So we're talking about the scientist stuff and the ending and all that jazz, which we pretty much did actually. I think the movie's really good. I think it has been surpassed, and I think it is kind of like in a shadow even from its time period because it came out the same year as Star Wars. 2 years later, Alien came out, and like this is going to sound bold coming from me, but I do also like Star Wars more than Close Encounters, and I definitely like Alien both more than both of those. So, you know, it is kind of in its own little shadow here, where it's like even Spielberg himself went on to do better sci-fi movies, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I don't know. I still really love this one. I still get that Spielberg wonder, and I like that aliens in this movie are like benevolent because after this, we don't really get that anymore, with the exception of E.T., another Spielberg movie.
they were pretty
You know, and
benevolent in Arrival.
I guess I mean that's true. And In Contact,
And
which
In
I also
Contact.
think is a Close Encounters remake way, and you
Here,
don't get to see the aliens.
here's
Spoiler.
here's a question. Here's a question. Has there been any movies where the aliens are benevolent that is not either considered a Close Encounters like successor or an ET successor? Are they always like a rip-off or like a spiritual kind of thing to one of
Well, I
those?
mean, it's the first Contact film, right?
Yeah.
I guess First Contact. Although they're not, that's the Borg, so no.
Yeah.
There is First Contact in the movie, but it's not with the Borg.
Yeah. First Contact. It's with the Vulcans. Yeah. I remember. I've seen First Contact.
It's a good movie.
That's a good movie. That's a good
Ooh,
movie.
it's time travel. We should do that one.
I'm sorry, but I think the Star Trek movies are off limits because the ongoing Star Trek series of reviews that me and Connor are doing kind of has dibs on it. I'm sorry. Maybe one day we'll redo all the movies. Like Tara wants to do Star Trek movies, so we have to do Star Trek again.
Eventually, we're going to run out of sci-fi movies.
I don't think we will. We keep adding more to the list.
Yes.
And we legitimately have a list of like hundreds, so I think we're going to be fine. So no, I like the performances are good. I think the direction, like I would trim things out and I would definitely smoothen it a little bit. But the key scenes that are very memorable are memorable because they're exceptionally directed. You know, the scene where the boy's abducted,
Yeah.
the scene in the car, the most of the ending. I don't think the ending drags on too much. There's too much stuff sort of in between the big moments, but the big moments are really good.
When that ship, that big mothership shows up, though,
yeah.
it is a big moment.
Hey, did it remind you a little bit of Dark City because it looked like it was like a city in the middle of it?
Yeah, it looked like a city. Hmm.
Yeah, I was getting that
And
vibe.
even when it's like in the center of it, looks like there's more city in it.
Hmm.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I was getting those vibes. This
I
is
was thinking that. I was also thinking Encounter at Farpoint.
okay. Okay, yes, I've seen that Star Trek Next Generation episode. You're quite right.
Yeah, I thought it looked a lot like that.
That's fair. I
The new television show, Star Trek: The Next Generation pilot.
Oh dear, I've not had my reference in yet.
Hey, we've done like 4 Star Trek references.
Time's running out.
And you've done them too.
I need to squeeze in a reference to a certain hit television show.
Okay, no vampires in it.
Before it's done. How can I do this? There's not a lot of alien stuff in that show. There's like one episode in season 5 of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer where the villain's technically an alien, but it was weird at the time because it was like, well, we're doing an alien. That's weird in this show because everything's always been mystical and like demons or magic-y or whatever.
Yeah, I always think it's strange because that was kind of the problem with well, one of the problems with the Crystal Skull is that okay, so there's aliens and there's God in this universe. How do they both coexist?
That was definitely not my problem with Crystal Skull, but yeah, I can see
It
what you're
was
saying.
a
Yeah.
problem that came up, I think.
My problem with Crystal Skull is the fact that Indiana Jones doesn't ever actually do anything. He just kind of reacts to things over and over again and never really makes a choice. But that's another thing. Plus Shia LaBeouf and swinging and all sorts.
With the monkeys.
Yes,
Yeah, not good.
all that stuff.
But we're getting another one.
I know, maybe it'll be better.
Apparently, Spielberg, although he directed the film, this was most he claims that Crystal Skull was mostly a George Lucas project,
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
which is why he wants to make another one to redeem himself.
I can see that.
And Lucas apparently will not be involved. I don't know.
Speaking of
Word on the street.
Spielberg and Lucas's pair, are you aware of a bet that happened in 1977?
Between Spielberg and Lucas.
Yes, in relation to this movie.
Well, they both made space movies this year.
They did, but no, I can't remember what they bet exactly, but it was basically they were both convinced that their movies weren't good, and they bet each other that so Steven Spielberg bet that Star Wars would do better than Close Encounters and vice versa, and I can't remember what the what the winner got. You know, I think it was like part of like their paycheck or something like that. And Spielberg obviously won that bet because Star Wars is Star Wars.
Didn't Spielberg like help Lucas with Star Wars also?
I believe there's
Because they're all kind of like him and like Scorsese and Coppola and stuff were all like really close.
yeah. I love how
during this time.
you can see the comparison between Spielberg and Lucas, but you look at those other directors and go, yeah, none of those were making space movies. They weren't doing.
No, they were making like Taxi Driver, which
Yeah.
is a great movie, but like very different.
Yeah, Taxi Driver's great.
Or Apocalypse Now.
Speak about movies where you should never watch the extended cuts. Apocalypse Now, like the theatrical cut's really good, and every other version just drags
It's
the
okay.
pace. Every other version just drags the pace out so much. The Redux cut, no, don't do it. Watch the theatrical one.
I don't love I love scenes of Apocalypse Now, but I actually don't love the movie. And I
That's
don't
fair.
like Martin Sheen in it. Like at all. And I really, really don't like Marlon Brando.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think he's terrible in the movie. Like he's just this obese guy at the end of the film talking nonsense. Like, how are you obese and you've been living in like the jungle off of rice for like the last 10 years? Doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yes. Anyway, um, yes.
apparently he just showed up and like didn't have any of his lines learned and he just improvised the whole time.
That sounds like Marlon Brando.
And Coppola was just like, screw it, like we've had so many production problems with this
Yeah,
movie.
there's a reason
Do
why.
it. Like I've been told I have to have you in the film, so just do whatever you want to do. We'll try to make it work.
There's a reason why the making of documentary that I think was like award winning on its own is called Heart of Darkness, because
I've actually never seen it, but
neither have I, neither have I. But
I've heard of it.
the production apparently was a nightmare, which is insane. But I am. It's funny, we were joking about both having the same favorite John Williams score earlier, but just so I don't agree with you on Apocalypse Now, because I at least it's been a while since I watched it, admittedly, but there's oddly a few movies from this era that we actually agree on, either in a positive way or a negative way, because the subject of Annie Hall came up once, and Tara thought she was going to offend me. She was basically bracing me, thinking she was going to like offend my like film nerd like mind. She's like, I have to say I don't really like Woody Allen and Annie Hall. I just don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get the why people are so drawn to his films.
Little did she know that she was voicing my exact sentiment. And I don't get Annie Hall either. I was bored to tears watching Annie Hall. The only other Woody Allen film I saw was the one that Larry David was in. I saw that in theaters because Larry David was in it, and I was equally bored throughout the whole thing. Woody Allen is just not for me. I don't get it.
Don't think I've seen it. I saw Midnight in Paris because it had great reviews, and I don't think I knew it was a Woody Allen movie going in. But I knew when I left. I'm like, no, didn't like that.
Yeah, because I went to see I think it was called Whatever Works, I think was the name of the Larry David one, and I went to see it hoping that it was basically just going to be Curb Your Enthusiasm, the movie. That's what I was hoping for.
I watched, yeah, it's not, is it?
No, it's not.
I saw, I think Blue Jasmine was the last Woody Allen movie I saw, and I watched it because Cate Blanchett was nominated for Best Actress, and she was great in it, but it's not for me.
Yeah. No, Woody Allen. No, I mean, I don't have the same like passion for the hatred like I do with say Tim Burton, but you know, that's what it is.
Mm.
All right. Okay. Do we have
I mean,
anything?
I haven't seen a movie from his that I've liked in a long, long time, but I do like Ed Wood a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He kind of gets a pass. And I was a kid when those Batman movies were coming out, and they did, mean a lot when I was growing up. I will
Hell.
agree that they don't hold up,
Oh, they don't.
but I still like them. They're Batman Returns was a really big part of my childhood.
Hey, I watched those movies a lot as a kid. But there was this weird thing where I got to, it was a certain age where I stopped watching like those movies in Superman because I was like, oh, I'm too old for childish shit like that now. I'm all mature because I'm like 10.
I'm an artist.
Yes. But then there was this thing, so I started getting into other things, and then Batman Begins came out when I was 16, and it freaking blew me away. I loved that movie and went, hey, I think I actually really like superheroes. I'm going to go back and check out other, the stuff that I liked as a kid. And I watched Batman the animated series again after liking that as a kid. I watched Superman movies, which I really like. I mean, obviously not all of them because four is like four, but Batman by Tim Burton, knowing at this point that I just didn't like Tim Burton because I never liked Edward Scissorhands as a kid. I never liked Beetlejuice. Even trying some of them again when I was a bit older, did not like them. But like Batman, I just like it's a two-pronged thing because one, I just don't really like Tim Burton, and two, there's a lot of things about his Batman adaptation, if you will, that rub me the wrong way as a Batman fan. So
I never liked Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne.
bizarrely though, because
He's always like crazy.
oh he is, he's if you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. Like that's his.
It's such a strange interpretation.
Oh, hey Foxy. But the weird thing about it is that because I saw him so much as a kid, I still have this nostalgia attached to when they're referenced. So when I like that line I just said, if you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. When someone says that in a movie and it's a reference, I'm like, that's fun, even though I don't like the movie.
Right.
So it's a weird thing.
I do love all the Mr. Freeze one-liners, even though it's such a bad movie.
Yes, I'm just gonna put this out here.
All right, everybody, chill.
Mr. Freeze said the phrase "Winter is coming" long before Game of Thrones was on the airwaves. I'm just pointing this out.
You're right, yeah. Maybe it's just my love of Arnold puns, but
hey, I said this when we reviewed them earlier this year, me and Connor, but I legitimately have more fun watching Batman and Robin now than I do Batman Returns because it's so stupid and silly that you can laugh at
you just kind of have to just let yourself get into it.
Yeah, like I actually kind of got into just laughed a lot. Whereas Batman Returns, I'm just like, oh, there's Tim Burton, and, oh, penguins eating a fish.
It was a little bit like the director was trying to like one up Tim Burton on the camp.
Oh sure.
Like he took Tim Burton and was sort of making fun of him with it, and making fun of like the superhero genre in general, or making it look like a comic book. But like, there's nothing, I don't know. There's nothing in the comics about like the back card, but I guess it maybe is an interpretation of like capitalism. Who knows?
Well, that's funny because it is a 2-hour toy commercial. It's like there's a reason why they have like different suits in the last part of the film, and they have like 2 vehicles each, and all like it's all just designed to sell as many toys as possible. That's all it is.
Chicks dig the car.
Man, Joey pisses me off. I actually watched this. I never knew this as a kid, but in the third one, when like Dick's like saying, "Oh, I want to be like a sidekick. I want to be your partner." Is I don't want to call myself though, like Bat Boy, Nightwing, and he kind of shrugs it off, and I'm like, you pricks. Because if you don't know this, if you're not a comic book person, Robin Dick Grayson does become a character called Nightwing when he gets older. That's his adult superhero title.
When he's no longer a sidekick.
Yes, he's his own hero, and he's replaced as Robin by Jason Todd, who is mercifully killed off as quickly as possible with a crowbar, which is delightful. And
who does it? Joker.
Yeah, Joker kills him.
Makes sense.
But then someone puts him in a Lazarus pit, and he comes back as Red Hood.
Oh, that's who Red Hood is.
Right. So Jason Todd's still around.
Well, we got to stop this now because I know you can keep going forever.
Yeah, we can go forever. Is there anything else we would like to add about Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
We should probably rate it.
I was going to get. I was asking if there's anything before we want to rate it. Clearly, the answer to that question was no. I want to go to bed, Peter. So rate the effing movie. See, I understood it. Therefore, the communication has improved because I got exactly what you wanted there. So Tara, what would you rate Close Encounters of the Third Kind out of 10 smelly aliens?
So I do agree with the criticisms about the length of the film. The end does really stretch out, and I don't think we need so much stuff with the aliens. I think maybe there is a really cool movie if you're just following Dreyfuss's character, but I can't help but love this film when I watch it. Like even when I watch it in theaters, uh, with the extended scenes in it, I was like, man, this movie's long, but I'm never bored. I do like the characters. I do like the themes. I like his journey. I don't really care that he's an asshole with his family, or like kind of abandons his family, because I care about his journey and I want to see the answers too. And I like this movie a lot. So I'm giving it a 9. I think it's a 9.
Whoa, up to the 9. I
Yeah.
imagine lots of people will agree with you. This is bizarrely just one for me that I saw a bit later, and because I do have some critiques of it, it doesn't have that special place in my heart for me. It's not one that I hold dear from my childhood. I saw it just a little bit later, and because of that, I view it as any other film that I've seen as an adult, and it's really good. And I actually think the subtext is more interesting than the text, if that makes sense. Where the actual events of the movie of him like going and finding the thing is like it's okay. It's actually the subtext behind it that's actually more interesting for me.
Sure.
But it has some pretty visuals. It has some good music. It has some of that that wonder that Spielberg likes to do. But I do
Yeah.
think that wonder comes even better in E.T. and I do think it comes in Jurassic Park as well. A lot of that is and I think for me as a kid, because I like dinosaurs as a kid, and because I saw Jurassic Park in theaters, like Jurassic Park, I think is the better movie. But even just on a personal level, I grew up with that. Like I saw that at the age of 4, and I was obsessed with dinosaurs for a while because of it. Whereas, and I love space, I love aliens and stuff like that, but this is definitely on the lower ranks for me when it comes to movies about aliens and movies about first contact and things like that. So with all that said though, it's still really good and has a lot of reasons. It's something that people should see. If you're into film, you should see it because it is kind of a milestone.
Definitely.
And I think it's like, because I always see people talk about it being overshadowed by the other films that I mentioned, Alien and Star Wars and stuff like that, and they always it's so underrated because it's always overshadowed by them. I think it's overshadowed because it should be overshadowed by them. It's perfectly rated, and that's not a bad thing. It's good, but those are better. So I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Excellent.
Pretty consistent with our reviews. I think we're usually like a point apart.
That's true. Have we had any that have been like miles apart? Was there any that was like? I want to say there was
I
one.
think we're pretty far apart on Altered States.
Yeah, I think you gave that like a 4 or something with that, and I was like, no, look at a 7. Like, I kind of
Yeah,
liked it.
you're like, come on, it's not a 4. Like I've seen 4 films, but I really didn't like it.
Hey, Tara.
I think I was also really disappointed because in that film because I remember really enjoying it, and then when I was watching it, I was like, why did I like this so much?
Hey, I've done 330 episodes of Screams After Midnight. I know the difference between a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, and a 5. Don't you worry. I am well
I
versed in
don't know.
that.
That one scene in the middle with the monkey like really knocked it down like 4 points.
I know what that half of the scale is like. I spend a lot of time on that side of the scale on Screams After Midnight. We've had a couple of stinkers though. I mean,
Hey, I
obviously,
grew up watching Mystery Science Theater.
that's true. That's true.
I know what those movies look like too.
Yeah, we obviously the Captive State were really. Was that the well, not including Robot Vampire from the bonus episode because obviously that was the worst one we've done. But was Captive State the one where we both unanimously went at the lowest on? It might have been.
Yeah, I think I gave it like a 2. I think you gave it like a 3.5 or something.
Yeah, I was being a little bit more objective, I guess.
Yeah. Oh,
You
we differed on Judge Dredd also.
did we? Okay, that's fair. But yeah, as we said earlier, Terminator 3 is what's coming next week. So talk to the hand, if you remember that scene, and we will dive into that next
Are we
week.
going to review the deleted scene?
Tara, would you?
Hey, I'm Sergeant Candy.
If Tara would like to review the deleted scenes, specifically the Sergeant Candy deleted scene, we can also do that. Yes.
I mean, we can't not talk about it.
If you want to know what Sergeant Candy's all about, you'll find out next week on the show. So hopefully you had fun listening to us talk about Close Encounters. We have some stuff to tell you about, which could be interesting, maybe. So please do tell us what you think of Close Encounters in the comments. Like and subscribe, all those usual things that help. You can of course support us a lot. The audio podcast version specifically, if you want to rate and review us on like Apple Podcasts, it really helps people find the show and spread it around if you do that. So make sure you do that, because that does help us a lot. You can of course help us financially. Tara will tell you all about that.
You can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. You could donate as little as $1 per month, and that gets you cool bonuses. If you enjoy our show, you get bonus episodes of The Ace, which we've sort of mentioned already. Plus, you get Screams After Midnight bonus episodes, which Peter has also brought up. And can you vote at the $5 tier?
You can.
And if there's a movie you want us to watch, you could submit it into the reactor where we put all those films, and when we don't know what to watch next, we can pull from that.
Yeah. I could just feel Tara's like communication skills dipping there in the middle of that.
How dare you?
Now, I think our communication has reached its pinnacle here. Towards, I think we've been fine. I think we just had to bond. We had to bond a little bit over our dislike of Annie Hall, and we're back on the same page. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, check out Patreon and all the stuff that's over there. And have a look and see what you like. The last bonus exclusive episode we did, which you can get for the $1 tier, the last one we did was Time Cop, which and we that was a 2-hour episode. There was some tangents. There was definitely some tangents, but Time Cop.
We went like a full 30 minutes about his one split scene.
We did.
So glorious.
We did. So check out that, and obviously I think that was the 4th exclusive. So if you sign up now for $1, you get access to 4 exclusive episodes that have already went up, and you get one per month. So go have a look see. But yeah, and otherwise, Tara's already kind of promoted Screams After Midnight for me, but we can add another couple of recommendations here for other content that we do. Me and Tara do Twilight Zone reviews every week for the classic Twilight Zone show. We're about we record these movies a few weeks in advance, but I think at the time
we just did the 24th episode of season 1.
We did, yes, out of 36.
We're only 2/3 of the way through.
Well, we're 2 episodes into disc 4 on the Blu-ray, just to put it in perspective. There's 5 discs, so we're getting up there. Season 1, the ending of season 1's kind of in sight. Look, I can kind of quantify it a little bit.
You're right.
It's there.
It's like 36 episodes or something.
Yeah, so go check out our Twilight Zone reviews, which you can get the audio versions on Fuzz in the Zone, or of course you can get everything on the YouTube page along with these Ace video versions and everything else that we do. So that is us. That has been Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and I know that there was no Mystery Science Theater section this week, and Hobgoblins is the next one we're doing. It is coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. I think we're feeling quite confident that we'll be on the next one, right? That Terminator 3 will be accompanied by Hobgoblins. What a combo!
We will make it work.
We'll make it work. Because I miss Mystery Science Theater. I actually want to watch another one. It's been like 3 weeks.
You know what I did today?
What did you do today?
On my lunch break, I bought some.
Oh, of course you did.
I was like, man, I miss watching Mystery Science Theater.
Well, we're going to watch Hobgoblins together before next episode, and we'll talk about Hobgoblins with Terminator 3. Although that's actually a bad one to do it on, because I feel like Terminator 3 we're easily going to go 2 hours even without Mystery Science Theater.
Well, excuse me, we'll make it work.
We'll make it work.
I'm at the point, I've crossed the threshold, I can't stop yawning.
Yes, poor Tara. This is the effort Tara's putting in. We're wrapping up the show now. Don't worry, she's going to get to go to bed in a matter of minutes. But everyone,
So excited.
everyone applaud Tara for the effort and the dedication to stay up way past her
How
bedtime.
dare you?
What? What do you mean? How dare I? I'm being honest.
This is over.
I was being
Cutting it.
genuine. Come on. I was trying to praise my co. I never do this with Connor for obvious reasons. So I mean, I want to feel nice at the end of a show for a change.
I don't need your charity.
Especially, okay, look, I feel guilty because I laughed at you at the start of the show. Okay, I feel guilty. I want to make it right. I want to make it right and get the people to basically enact the apology for me and be nice to you. If I can get an army to be nice, then I've achieved something. That's
Just
my
let
plan.
it go, man.
Just let it
It's the
go.
best way. Just don't bring it up and it'll go away on its own.
Okay, well, through that communication, I've understood what you've said, and I will never bring it up again. Oh dear. I'm not even mad. I'm not even regretting that little joke there at the end. I'm okay with that. Although I have to admit, nothing's beat Tara's joke from the end of Captive State, where she said, "Is there anything else to plug?" That might still be the
How
funniest.
dare- Oh, yeah.
That might still be the funniest. That might be the funniest line of this show so far, and I'll give her credit for that. You
Why,
thought I
thank
was
you.
going to bring up what I edited at the end.
Yeah.
And for those of you, because some of you might actually leave before we get to the final line of the show, at the end of that show, Tara refused to do her catchphrase at the end, and I edited it in from another episode because it made it really funny. So make sure you watch all the way to the end, because sometimes we do a little joke at the end after the plugging. I was making that clear. The final thing I have to tell you, though, is go and follow
It's
us
a
on...
reward for people who stick around.
It is. It's a reward. So go and follow us on Twitter at the Ace Podcast for updates and other shenanigans and things. One day I'll convince Tara to accept the login details so she can also tweet on it for funds. She can put random thoughts.
My assistant will do it
Your assistant will do it.
on behalf of me.
What Gus?
Meow meow. Meow 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 meow.
Yeah, Mel. Tara, there's a lot of pictures of fish and mice going up on the Twitter feed recently. What's going on? This guy's stalking his prey.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of searching for catnip. It's on a search, Gus.
Gus is on 4chan looking for catnip in the back channels. All right, that has been episode 21 of the Atomic Cinema Experiment, and I'm pretty confident on the number this time, which is why I did it. I'm pretty confident this is number 21. So thank you very much
Look at us.
for joining us. Yes, 20 feels. I mean, I think 25 is a bigger one. I think at this point we're going for that quarter of the 100. When we hit 25, that'll feel special.
We'll get some cake.
I'm a little worried that that's going to be like Terminator Salvation, number 25. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes. But yeah, number 25 will be an event. Well, a minor event. Number 50 will be an event. Number 25 is... It's okay. It's notable.
If we remember. Yeah.
If we remember. And then, yes. So yeah. Also, actually, one final thing. We have an email, mftvquestions@gmail.com. If you want to send in questions about any movies we've talked about in the past, or things that you know we're going to be talking about soon, feel free to send it in. Just put in the subject bar that it's for the Ace, and we'll maybe do questions occasionally. So do that. You can also ask questions on the Twitter as well if you want, at the Ace Podcast. So yes, without further ado, this has been a fairly epic episode of the Atomic Cinema Experiment. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it.
Thank you to patrons who voted.
Thank you, patrons, who voted for the movie. Make sure you vote in the next one, which actually is already up. And again, we record these a few weeks in advance, so I'm not sure if there's still time to vote on it yet. But the vote that went up is all 1930s science fiction films, and the idea is that we'll come back to this kind of idea and do like a 40s sci-fi vote. Maybe not the next one, but like maybe the next couple we'll do 1940s and so on. So I think the options are Things to Come, King Kong, Flash Gordon, Invisible Man.
I don't know.
There you go. I got it. I got it.
Those are all good.
You know, well, I've never seen Flash Gordon, so I can't comment on that. Yeah, but no,
Actually, I've only seen King Kong.
you never seen
But
Invisible Man?
those are all movies that I would like to
Oh
see.
sure, yeah. Oh yeah, Invisible Man and
Oh, I've seen The Invisible Man.
oh good, yeah. I was gonna say I'm sure I thought I've heard you talk about that before.
Yeah, I have seen that one.
But yeah, but anyways, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching the sci-fi movies, guys. And computer, add salsa.
Yum, yum.